Just before 4 o'clock on the afternoon of December 5, 1945, a radio operator in Fort Lauderdale, Florida, picked up a transmission that made no sense. A Navy flight instructor, a combat veteran with around 2,500 hours in the air, was reporting that both of his compasses had failed. 5 torpedo bombers and 14 men were flying over water they had crossed dozens of times. Within 5 hours, every one of them was gone. So was one of the rescue planes sent to find them. This was Flight 19, and the mission could not have been more routine. Navigation problem number 1. Fly east from Fort Lauderdale Naval Air Station. Drop practice bombs on a shoal called Hens and Chickens. Turn north over Grand Bahama. Then come home. A simple triangle, about 3 hours in the air. The man leading it, Lieutenant Charles Taylor, had flown combat missions in the Pacific. But Taylor carried a problem no instrument could fix. He believed, with total conviction, that he was somewhere he was not. When his compasses malfunctioned, Taylor decided the islands below him were the Florida Keys. They were almost certainly the Bahamas. The difference was fatal. If you think you are over the Keys, flying northeast brings you back to the Florida mainland. If you are actually over the Bahamas, flying northeast carries you straight out into the open Atlantic. Shore stations urged the flight to head west. Atmospheric interference chopped the radio traffic to pieces. The weather deteriorated. Night fell, and 14 men watched their fuel gauges sink toward empty. The Navy launched one of the largest air and sea searches in its history. Among the aircraft sent out was a PBM Mariner flying boat with 13 men aboard. 23 minutes after takeoff, the crew of a passing tanker, the SS Gaines Mills, watched a fireball erupt in the night sky and burn on the surface of the sea. The Mariner never sent a distress call. 6 aircraft and 27 men lost in a single evening. The Navy's investigation ran to roughly 500 pages. What it actually concluded would quietly vanish from the legend. Investigators initially placed responsibility on Taylor's confusion. After his mother protested, the verdict was softened to causes or reasons unknown, a phrase that would launch 1,000 paperbacks. The Mariner's fate was less ambiguous. That aircraft type was nicknamed the flying gas tank because fuel vapor was known to accumulate inside the fuselage, where a single spark could ignite it. The tanker's crew saw the explosion with their own eyes and steamed through the oil slick it left behind. Nothing supernatural was required. But Flight 19 did not start the myth. That honor belongs to a ship that vanished 27 years earlier, taking more lives than any other non-combat disaster in the history of the United States Navy. On March 4, 1918, the collier USS Cyclops left Barbados carrying roughly 10,800 tons of manganese ore and 306 people, bound for Baltimore. She was a 542-foot floating warehouse, and she was struggling. Her starboard engine had a cracked cylinder and was effectively out of action. She was reported riding low, possibly overloaded. She never arrived. No distress call, no wreckage, no bodies. More than a century later, the Navy has still never found her. President Woodrow Wilson reportedly remarked that only God and the sea knew what had happened to the great ship. In 1918, the obvious suspicion was German sabotage. It was wartime, and the captain of the Cyclops, George Worley, was German-born. His real name was Johann Friedrich Wickmann, and by most accounts he was a strange and unpopular commander. But when German naval records were opened after the war, no U-boat had claimed her and no mine was charted along her route. Then, in 1941, something happened that should have settled the matter forever. The Cyclops' 2 sister ships, the Proteus and the Nereus, vanished as well. Same class, same design, same job, hauling dense or through the same Atlantic waters. 3 nearly identical ships, 3 total disappearances. Either the ocean held a grudge against one shipyard's blueprints, or the blueprints themselves were the problem. The myth, however, was just getting started. In February 1964, the writer Vincent Gaddis published an article in Argosy magazine called The Deadly Bermuda Triangle, and the region had its name. A decade later, Charles Berlitz's book The Bermuda Triangle sold millions of copies in dozens of languages. The list of victims grew with every retelling: yachts, freighters, airliners. The explanations grew wilder: magnetic anomalies, methane eruptions, Atlantis, alien abduction. By the mid-1970s, this was the most famous patch of ocean on Earth. which makes one detail almost unbelievable. The people with real money riding on the answer never believed a word of it. Lloyd's of London has been insuring ships since the late 1600s. If one region of the sea genuinely destroyed vessels at an unusual rate, Lloyd's would know first, because Lloyd's would be writing the checks. Asked about the Bermuda Triangle, Lloyd's has stated flatly that the area is no more dangerous than any other stretch of open ocean, and it has never charged higher premiums for sailing through it. The United States Coast Guard, which patrols those waters every day, says the same thing. And in 2013, when the Worldwide Fund for Nature published a study of the most dangerous shipping waters on Earth, the list was led by places like the South China Sea, the Mediterranean, and the North Sea. The Bermuda Triangle did not make the top 10. So where did all the terrifying stories come from? One librarian decided to find out. His name was Larry Kusch, a research librarian at Arizona State University. Instead of copying earlier authors, he pulled the original records, newspaper archives, Lloyd's casualty lists, official accident reports. His 1975 book, The Bermuda Triangle Mystery, solved, dismantled the legend case by case. Ships described as vanishing on calm seas had sailed into documented storms. Vessels counted as triangle victims had gone down hundreds or even thousands of miles away. One of them, the Freya, was actually lost in the Pacific Ocean. Some disappearances had never happened at all. The vessels turned up safe, but the corrections never made it into the bestsellers. Kusch's conclusion was blunt. The mystery was manufactured, careless research, repeated until it hardened into fact. None of that means the region is gentle. The real Bermuda Triangle has genuine teeth. They are simply made of physics. Start with the Gulf Stream, a river inside the ocean that tears through the area at up to 4 knots, fast enough to sweep wreckage and debris far from any crash site within hours. Search planes arrive to find clean, empty water, and the legend gains another entry. Beneath it lies some of the deepest water in the Atlantic. The Puerto Rico Trench drops more than 27,000 feet, over 5 miles down, where a sunken hull is simply unrecoverable. Add fast-forming squalls and a busy hurricane corridor, plus one final quirk. This was one of the few places on Earth where compasses once pointed at true north instead of magnetic north, so navigators who corrected for a variation that did not exist could drift miles off course without ever knowing it. And then there are rogue waves. In 2018, oceanographers at the University of Southampton built a scale model of the Cyclops and tested it against simulated waves of the kind now well documented in the open Atlantic. Walls of water approaching 100 feet. A ship of her design, long, flat-bottomed, and loaded with dense ore, could be lifted at the bow and the stern, lose support in the middle, and snap in two in under a minute. No time for a distress call. No survivors. Heavy cargo dragging every trace of evidence straight to the bottom. It fits the Cyclops. It fits the Proteus and the Nereus. It requires no portals, no aliens, and no lost civilizations. Only the ordinary, documented violence of the sea. Here is the number that ends the argument. The triangle covers roughly 500,000 square miles of one of the most heavily traveled corridors on the planet, crossed by hundreds of ships and aircraft every single day. More traffic means more accidents in raw totals. But the rate of loss, the figure insurers actually care about, is unremarkable. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration puts it plainly. There is no evidence that disappearances happen there more often than in any other busy region of ocean. Flight 19 was a navigation error compounded by darkness, weather, and fuel. The Mariner was a vapor explosion witnessed by an entire tanker crew. The Cyclops was almost certainly a structural failure in heavy seas, a verdict her two sister ships seconded in 1941. And yet her wreck has never been found. 306 people, the worst non-combat loss in U.S. Navy history, still lies somewhere beneath the Atlantic without a marker. The data killed the myth decades ago. The sea is still keeping the one secret that matters. Where? If you want more true stories where the evidence turns out stranger than the legend, stay right here.